This is the GPL podcast, part of the Pull Tab Sports family.
Oh boy. Jupe making mistakes. I love it.
Well, I wish I had an answer for how 1 week ago we could play 120 minutes in 6 periods so strong, and then we turn around tonight and you know, we have not seen that out of this group. And so we have to bury it quickly. And we have got to bury it and respond because we're playing for marbles now. Our guys know it. And we handed them 3 goals on turnovers, and then we were chasing the game, and we did not have a good look at us tonight. And we can't hide from it. So it has to be over.
Now, here's Jupiter and Vigo. Good evening and welcome to the GPL podcast, episode number 306. Helps when I select the correct image there. Vigs, I added the Bob Motzko video because last Thursday night was exactly what Bob has been talking about all season. He just doesn't know why. He doesn't know how. And I don't blame him. He's like, we just had a great weekend at Michigan, and now we get creamed 7-1.
Yeah, I think that's the problem with young teams is you don't know what you're going to get every night. And when things aren't going well, sometimes it's hard to fight through it. And I think we saw that on Thursday. You know, the first period was kind of so okay, but in the second period, the game just slipped away. And this team, you know, in some of those nights, they've just had a hard time finding their way back into positive hockey. And it's almost like they need a day to reset and come at it again the next night. And at this time of the year, you don't have many nights like that where you can get away with that. And especially looking forward now, they can't have that at all.
And that's exactly what Bob said in our little intro there. It's like, yeah, it's for all the marbles now, basically, Vigs. Terrible night. We obviously know that. They followed it up the next night. A tie in the books, get the shootout win. 3 shootouts in the row this year. They had never had 2 shootout wins in a row ever in their history. So apparently a bad season equals good season on shootouts.
Apparently they're more focused on the shootouts. I don't know what's going on, but they're just happy to be there. Whereas before they were still mad that they got to the shootout to begin with. Mm-hmm. But they've got some talent in the shootout. You know, LJ Mooney is certainly one that's fun to watch. Javon Moore, you know, we've talked to Jack Ramsey about him, and he's a super skilled big guy. And when you've got that kind of wingspan coming down in the shootout, you can do a lot of things that will give goaltenders troubles. And he's been good for them. And Brody Zemer has been a good shootout player for Minnesota this year, but he didn't come through on Friday.
Zach Weiss got 1 minute and 39 seconds of action of his entire career. 1 save, but boy, that was a big moment for his. You know, his family was up in a suite making all this noise. The crowd was making noise. The players were going nuts for him. Boy, that felt really good, Vigs.
Yeah, I was a little worried after the first whistle that they were just going to pull him out after that. And you could see Mats and Luka kind of look at each other, and they're like, let him make a save, you know, and thank goodness he made that save. You know, that's always the concern, I think, when you take a chance like that. But, you know, total program guy. You know, Zach was an offensive lineman in high school, and I think he kind of took that same attitude to being a goalie in the program. You know, just do whatever it takes, really unselfish, you know, practice habits. Teammates love him, and nice to see him get that opportunity. He had a big smile on his face when he came into the post game on Friday.
He certainly did. His kind of first, well, his only post game media he's ever done. He did pretty good there, so that was great to see.
That might be his only media he's done. I don't know if he's come out during the week either, so it's good to see Zach out there.
He probably hasn't. Yeah. So 2 out of 4 points, Vigs.
I predicted 4 out of 6 for the Chaos, so
just the opposite.
Just the opposite.
So they do finish in 6th place. They will head to Penn State. We'll talk more about that later. A lot of goofy things going to happen. Penn State got swept again, this time at home to the Badgers, and the Badgers picked a good time to start playing better because for a while they were right near that cutoff line, Viggs, and now Penn State is more in that position, maybe not as bad, but Wisconsin really helped themselves by just pretty much beating up on Penn State this past weekend.
Yeah, it really seemed like Penn State was a lock to get in, and Wisconsin was headed towards the bubble, and how things have kind of turned around here where both teams are now a little bit on the bubble heading into the tournament play. But I think, Wisconsin is a team that had a good start. Brad Schlossman picked them to be one of the top teams in college hockey. They had a lot of things going for them. And then the wagon just kind of fell off when they played Minnesota. They had a hard time getting goals 5-on-5. I think that Hastings style dictates a team to play really disciplined, and they got away from that a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And they found themselves in trouble.
A terrible injury too.
Yeah, terrible injury as well. You keep them.
Correct. And then obviously Michigan State got enough for Minnesota to take over first place. It seemed like all involved except Michigan in the league was happy that, again, Michigan has not won a regular season title yet in the Big Ten. So the 11th season, I think? Yeah.
I think the field of the Big Ten is tied with Minnesota for Big Ten titles. I think it's 7-7. So
correct. It's just fun because some of those people are just we'll just leave it at that, I guess. So Wisconsin wins and Minnesota gets a couple points. What else we have last weekend? Ohio State took care of Notre Dame. I think they actually split. Minnesota had a chance to catch Ohio State, but they could have only tied them, so it wouldn't have mattered. Ohio State did have a chance if they had swept and then Wisconsin was swept. They could have tied them and would have won those tiebreaker. But instead, we've got Ohio State heading to Wisconsin this weekend, Notre Dame heading to Michigan, and obviously we're heading to Penn State. So that's kind of the recap of the weekend. But we also had some fun this past weekend involved with the high school tournament, didn't we?
Yeah, we got to go down to the expo and hang out in the Pull Tab Sports booth and do a little pod with Brian Bonin, Mr. Hockey, Hobie Baker winner, longtime youth hockey coach, has a lot of strong opinions. I ran into a couple people on Sunday and they said, Brian's got opinions and he wants to share them with the world.
He's so supportive of community hockey. And honestly, that's what has kept Minnesota above everyone else in the country is community hockey. Even Canada's getting much worse at community hockey these days. So it's kind of a special thing to put taxpayer money in there. You look at how many players play D1 out of, for men and women. How many players go on to the NHL? The community program is working, but yet Brian's afraid it's going to fall apart, and I think he's right in some areas.
Well, I think the key to the number of D1 and professional players that Minnesota produces is simply because of the quality of coaching and the number of players participating. I don't think the goal of building all these rinks is necessarily to produce D1 hockey players and pro hockey players. It's just something that comes out of it. And while you're producing those talented players, you're also just creating hockey fans, officials, parents down the line who can raise their kids to play hockey, can volunteer for their local association. It's just kind of a model that feeds itself. And I think the game of hockey teaches so many good, skills and attributes and character traits that's really what the investment is. And when you start making it all about the money and private equity and for-profit companies, you lose a lot of that greater good that comes with hockey. And, I don't think the model works when you start doing it that way, because all of a sudden, you shrink the pyramid, you lose the number of players, you lose the number of potential D1 players and pro players when you do that.
It's going to be interesting to see how it goes. I actually loved his passion for it. He had some similar thoughts of the college game as well. You know, how it's kind of, he was going through the rankings. Like, God, where did this team come from? Where is that team? It was quite interesting. It was an hour show. So be sure to check out us on your favorite podcasting app, and the video is probably a little more intuitive as you can kind of see how Brian is feeling, because he got worked up, didn't he?
Well, he's passionate. He was probably one of the last generation of player to just have community hockey and community models. There wasn't even a development program when he was in school, hadn't started yet. That's more of the Jordan Leopold era when that kicks in and that distraction started to happen. I don't think you had, Minnesota Made and Minnesota Machine and all the Minnesota Blades and the AAA stuff started yet. So you could just focus on what you're doing with your local association. And now there's a lot of choices, and it's a free market, and you can choose what you want to do. But again, I think the model starts to stop working when you just make it so elite so quickly, because the reason you have the facilities to do that stuff is our model in Minnesota.
Yeah. We'll have to see, but the reason why we have the expo is during the high school hockey tournament, Vigs, another very successful tournament. Some kind of crazy final games. You look at that, the final game in the A, how it looked like it was going to be a blowout, and then it came back. What was it? Hibbing came back and took the lead, and then they lose. I mean, that was crazy. But just talk about that game, because the double A was just as crazy.
Well, I only saw the highlights of the Class A game because I was coaching my Pee-wees. We had a little tournament this weekend. We had games at 8 and 12:15 on that Saturday. So I had a long day Saturday. But I thought the tournament was pretty good overall for Class A. Some years we just don't have a very competitive field. But I think this year, all across high school hockey, we saw some more upsets. And it wasn't just chalk in all the games this year. There were some competitive games. But War Road, man, if you had your community model, War Road's one that's pretty impressive. A lot of those kids came up through that program, and they've had family members come through that program, and it's Hockey Town for a reason. I'm sure Jess Myers is very excited about another title coming up north. So it's good to see.
So War Road jumps out the lead. Hibbing comes slowly back and gets ahead of War Road, and then War Road ties it late and then wins it early in overtime. Similarly, we had the same thing happen in Double A. You had Minnetonka race out to a nice lead, led 4-1 going into the third over Moorhead. And I think Heather Rule said she couldn't find an instance where a team came back from 3 goals in a third period to tie and then win in overtime. But it was just another spectacular game. They come back, they tie it with 35 seconds left, win it in double overtime in front of 19,000 fans. Again, another reason why our hockey tournament is the best.
I did make that one. I was one of the 19,000 in person. And, I felt bad for Moorhead's goalie. I don't think he liked 2 of the 3 first goals, and probably wish he could have had those back. One of them was a really nice play that he had no chance on. But you could probably argue he was their best player down the stretch. In overtime, Minnetonka had lots of great chances, and he was there for all of them. There was a weird deflection off a skate late in the game that he was in position for and made the save on, and was just super impressive and calm. And that's a pretty impressive quality to see of a goalie to rally back from a start like that and recover, and then be someone his team could depend on. And Moorhead was a very talented team. They threw out their top players a lot in that championship game. I thought they got a little
but that's
fatigued.
Just it. They might have gotten fatigued, but it's the last game, and it's just adrenaline, isn't it?
It is. And they got a little fatigued, but I thought they blocked shots in the third period in the overtime when Minnetonka put some pressure on, and they really just held together and capitalized on the chances they had. And clawing your way back in that game is pretty intense. I think Moorhead was the team that almost lost like a 4 or 5 goal lead last year.
Yeah, it was a little hairy for them.
And they came back and won that one too. So back to back for the Spuds. I was watching Joey Cullen with a bit of a microscope this weekend. I was there on Thursday night as well. I missed the Gophers no show against Michigan State and saw the
You
high
didn't
school
miss
kids.
much.
Yeah. And, he's a very talented one-on-one player. I think there's some room to grow in his game, and probably wasn't his best tournament out of his high school career. He'll probably go to the development program next year and continue to expand his game, but his one-on-one and stick skills and just his hockey IQ offensively was pretty impressive to watch at times.
And something we have really never seen. You look at the semifinal, we had a little gathering after the Gopher game on Friday night. We were watching the high school games, and almost like a tiny little brawl broke out at the end of that Edina Moorhead game. I don't recall seeing anything like that before in the high school tournament.
Yeah, I think we're in rare territory with that one. I think a couple players got on the wrong side of the ice at the end of the game.
Mhm.
There's a little bit of chippiness at the end. I know Brooks Suter had played Bantam hockey with a bunch of the Moorhead kids and probably know each other pretty well and chirping each other out there on the ice. And then, one thing leads to another. And, I feel like that animosity is pretty contagious in hockey.
Mhm.
And it got ugly there at the end. And one of the Edina players missed the third place game because of that.
Oh, he did, because I didn't see what the result of that was. I know they did do a handshake line, and then I believe I was number 9. Maybe that was the guy. He ended up getting pulled out of that even because he was trying to start trouble there. It was kind of ugly for the high school tournament.
Yeah, and I thought it was good that most of the Edina guys didn't get into it. It was just a couple guys. So, and I think it was weird. I was talking to some media guys, and the MSHSL has been very quiet on any discipline. Like, they don't make any announcements about this
Shocking.
stuff. So you're kind of left to say, well, did the school do it? Did the MSHSL do it? They always operate things a little curiously.
What do you do? I mean, that's everything's kind of weird with the Minnesota State High School League. I mean,
Sure is.
how
But it was
they
a great tournament. And,
gosh, yes.
great attendance as always. St. Paul was rocking. It was fun to be a part of it.
Yeah, I have still not been to a high school tournament game since 1989. That's the first time I'd been down there, at least in the complex since then, for the high school tournament. So
I'm lucky enough to get to go with someone I coached high school football with, someone I played high school football for, someone who is the AD at my high school, and sometimes my high school hockey coach is there, and some old alums that I get to hang out with, and it's always a good time. We've got seats just behind one of the benches, and it's a good time.
and what was it, Thursday night? You had John King himself right behind you, didn't you?
Yeah, that was pretty funny. I'm walking to my seat. I'm coming a little hot after having some food at Joseph's Bar and Grill before the game, and I hear this guy go, "Hey, nice seats," and it's Kinger right behind me. So that was kind of funny. He had a friend in from out of town who couldn't believe the atmosphere. I think he was from Illinois or Mass. I can't remember, but he was from out of town, so he'd never been there and never seen it before. He was impressed by it all.
And of course, Kinger with another knock it out of the park hockey hair video.
A lot of lettuce this year. I don't know if I'm a big fan of all the dyes and Clorox, but
I
I'm
think
more of a
kids are just trying
traditional
to
flow guy.
I think they're just trying to do something different than the same old. I mean, it's either flow or long hair or bleached.
Yeah,
That's
bleach
kind
is
of
a
been
strong
it.
tradition. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think kids are just trying something different. I can't blame them because it's been kind of the same for 15 years. So
Hockey here goes all the way back to Youngblood. So, you got to have good flow. Keanu Reeves had the great flow back then.
Oh, he did, didn't he?
Patrick Swayze.
Rob Lowe. Oh, yeah.
Rob Lowe needed to work on his flow a little bit, I think, but he had the look.
He did. So, like you said, great tournament. Maybe not so great on the Minnesota Gophers side, but they did finish on a good note. And we're just going to have to see what happens here. I just guess I have to see. One thing I do see, though, Viggs, is Cascade CBX Sport. They still got their $5 sample deal going on. What do you know about this?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of a miracle thing. It relieves pain, relieves inflammation, relieves stress. And, if you're one of those weekend warriors, if you're a coach, if you're on the ice a lot, if you're on the court a lot, and you've got these aches and pains, you should try Cascade CBX Sport, and maybe you'll be a believer. And they've got such passion behind their brand that right now you can get a sample jar with 300 milligrams of CBD for just $5. Shipping's included. Check it out. CascadeCBXsport.com/team and see what all the fuss is about. Trust the shield. Stay on the field.
All right, let's take a look at your top 20 today, Viggs. Oh, yeah, there it is.
There it is.
You kept it pretty chalk, except you obviously punished Penn State and you punished Boston College. If you look at the entire poll there, otherwise everything was pretty much the same for you.
Yeah, a lot of the home teams in the first round of a lot of league conference playoff games took care of business. So there wasn't a lot of movement. All these top teams mostly swept. Some of them had to go to OT and whatnot to get through, but most of them advanced without sweating. And then we had a lot of teams that didn't play last week. So not a lot of movement. Penn State, it's hard to know. They're right on the bubble. They've really had some inconsistent hockey here the last couple of weeks. I have to say, if you're going to pick a team in the Big Ten to play as the 6th seed, Penn State's a good one to draw. So I think the Gophers are in good shape. They're playing a team that's giving up a lot of goals against, and that's where Minnesota struggled a little bit lately. We haven't really seen a great game from them since the Wisconsin series. So maybe this can, get their vibes going the right direction. The locker room was pretty pumped after their shootout win. So maybe that can carry over into Wednesday night.
Before we go to the MPI, look at Mote here. Can't stay long, but wanted to say that while Gopher hockey season hasn't been the best, the GPL crew has delivered as you do every season. Even got to meet Viggs. Thanks for a great season, boy. Thank you, Mote. I met Mote this season and a little bit last season. But then the one time he's going to be there, I'm like, Viggs is going to be there. Find Viggs. And it looks, and he found you. So it worked out
not
great.
often I have to look up to someone who wants to take a photo with me. So
So we appreciate you, Mote. He was listening live to our Bonin broadcast as well. Switching over to NPI, slight difference. Michigan up on top. It's funny. What was it? The Robert Morris Air Force game caused Michigan and North Dakota to flip late on Sunday. It was just, it was crazy. I was kind of watching thinking, North Dakota's at first. And then all of a sudden I looked Monday morning. Oh, wait a second. Why did that move?
Yeah, so if you look at GPL, you can see the tracker where you can see the raw ratings and how tight certain things are for certain teams as you do the comparisons. It's interesting to see how it's going to go, because when you start charting this out, you can see how the gaps are pretty small. And I really think that's something different in MPI than in the pairwise. In the pairwise, sometimes you almost felt like a comparison locked a team into a spot. I think things might be a little more volatile with the MPI when you get to these teams.
Just playing around with it a little bit here. Let's bring in these 3 schools. And you can see that kind of crossover and the switches and changes.
And if you go to the value instead of the rank, you can see how it tightens up. You can see can see how the spread was much more significant a couple weeks ago even, and now it's just like very tight. And this is happening across college hockey, which is why when we were brainstorming this tool, I was like, I really want to see where the gaps widen and tighten, so you can look at what games are important for MPI compared to pairwise. And this graph is just great for seeing that kind of stuff.
Just clean up here. It's it's so close together. I can't even keep the logos. You can't do much about the logos because it is too close together.
And when it gets that tight, it is those other games that start to matter that you wouldn't think would come into play. And who you play on your schedule, that was one of the things about MPI that they really wanted to focus on, is let's see you play a tough schedule, because it's going to help your MPI ranking.
And for the people listening, this is a good chance. Watch our YouTube videos. You get to see and check out all these cool things, and make sure you subscribe to our channel as well. We're getting close to 900 or on our way to 1,000. I know Mote's been pushing it all year, and we need to push it a little more ourselves. It's not just an audio podcast, it's a video podcast as well. College season coming down here, Vigs. It's going to be interesting. I mean, we got so many bubble teams. You look at the CCHA, everyone's kind of a bubble team right there in the CCHA. I think there's a slim chance that 2 of them get through. I guess maybe if Augustana, I think was highest ranking. If they were to get to the championship, maybe lose to another team, and it's just it's going to be interesting. It's just going to be interesting.
Yeah, I mean, there's a chance for Augustana right now, but as we see with these MPI ranks, I don't think the schedule of the CCHA has been kind to their rankings right now. And the more games they play in their league, the farther down they drop. And I think one of the interesting things is you look at Cornell and Dartmouth, they haven't played as many games. They didn't play as many out-of-conference games. So I feel like they're maybe a little more sheltered than like someone like Augustana or Minnesota State who played a full schedule in a league that played a full schedule. So I think that's an interesting phenomenon that I'm seeing in the MPI.
And then, gosh, we kind of had Penn State locked in as a number 1 or number 2 seed for quite a while. And it's just, what are they, 2-6 in their last eight games or something along those lines?
Yeah, and I think
you did the calculation though. It's like 99% they're still in, but you never know. I mean, they can always do the pairwise, or the predictor in the NPI. You can't go through and just change so many things, though. I mean, there's so many things that could happen.
Yeah, right now I think there's a less than 1% chance for Penn State to drop outside the top 13. But even 13 this year might not be safe. And I think, there's still a very good chance that Penn State makes it. But if they were to lose Wednesday, that's probably going to put them at 13 or 14 going into the bubble.
And what if Ohio State comes in and wins the Big Ten or something like it could happen? Obviously, that knocks everyone down another whole spot. So that's one thing the NPI can't really take into account. You kind of assume a couple leagues are going to get there. So being 16 and 15 is usually really it's bad. It's just a bad place to be. But then you bring 14, then you bring 13 into it, and any more upsets just makes it even worse. That's the only place where NPI is just not a predictor.
We could definitely see a team in Hockey East this year win that tournament and not be
like a BU
large team. Yeah, BU, BC are on the outside. UConn, all of a sudden, they're on the outside looking in too. So UMass, all 4 of those teams could win the Hockey East tournament. I wouldn't be surprised.
That's why it's going to be a fun few weeks. It's going to be it's the most wonderful time of the year.
That's right.
What I like to say. So that's going to be interesting. We are going to have a picks game for the NCAA tournament. Just reminding all of you GPLers, I have a feeling we'll get some people registering for it. But we're doing a picks game this year. First time doing it. We kind of tested it a little bit in December and January. Hopefully it'll work well. You just have to be registered on the site and make your picks in a certain period of time. And you pick the winner. You can pick the score of the winner to get bonus points and so forth. And I think you can get bonus points if you pick the 2 teams in the championship game, regardless of how the rest of your thing went. So it's going to be a fun game we're going to do this year, Vigs. I know you've been talking about it. We got to get one of these. Got to get one of these. And we finally have one of these, Vigs, that's built into GPL.
That's right. I like all the add-ins you're making. They're all very clean to look at, whether you're on mobile, on your PC, on your Mac, or whatever. It's a nice clean look when you go to GPL for these kinds of things. So it'll be fun to see how we do. I don't feel like we've done very well picking the Gophers this year. Maybe our maroon and gold colored glasses has, made us a little overly optimistic about this team.
I picked splits right, picking splits, but if you pick the wrong day, your Gopher strike picks, when we're just picking those Gopher games, it's going to break. And, some people, a couple of people are doing good, and we've only done it, since, like the second week in January or something like that. So that's going to be interesting. Our Gopher strike picks as well. It's kind of like a bowling score type of game we've got built on this in GPL as well.
I've been a little bit better at picking non-Gopher games the last couple of years, especially in the NCAA tournament. I won the State of Hoppy tournament pool.
That's right.
2 years ago, I think. And last year I did pretty well as well. So I feel optimistic nationally about picking these things. It's hard to pick the Gophers.
Yeah, you're right. And it's hard to get those streaks too. Especially, well, I think what's hurt too is that Minnesota's had a very unpredictable season. If they were a better team, I think people would have better picks, and then those streaks would come into the points a lot more than it is right now.
That's right.
So before we get to that, we need to talk about our other sponsor, Vigs, Cub Foods.
Yeah, Cubs, they're all aboard the Pull Tab Sports wagon. We love Cub. Cub loves Minnesota sports. Just look around. They sponsor the Wild podcast, Wild on 7th. They sponsor our podcast. They're on PJ Flex headset. If you look at some of the Dickeytown athlete signings that have been happening, Cub Foods is behind that. And they're just all around neighborhoods, and they're one of us. They're based here in Minnesota. If you want to go in there, I go to the Quarry Cub weekly, sometimes multiple times a week. I was in there today picking up some stuff for making tacos. And, as I get ready for game day here Wednesday, and with tournament games coming up, I'm always stopping at Cub. So you can shop online, you can shop for pickup or delivery. And if you're looking for some drinks, Cub's got those too. So visit Cub and shop happy.
All right. Of course, we thank them for sponsoring the GPL podcast. It's time to head to Penn State for the single game playoff, the new formats in the Big Ten tournament, Vigs. They move things around. We had the last week on Thursday, Friday, and then Friday, Saturday, Sunday is when most of the other leagues were doing their 2 out of 3. They decided to do it this way, dragged league out another week, and then a short week. So we've got Wednesday games here. We've got Saturday games for the semifinal, and then the final on the following Saturday. It kind of puts a kink in our podcast schedule. We're not sure what we're going to do. Maybe we'll talk about it in overtime. But before we get into Minnesota at Penn State, let's get your thoughts. Notre Dame at Michigan. Well, Todd Molesky was at Mariucci this past weekend. Just, he's covering the Frozen face-off for the women. And he kind of has the same feeling like, I don't think Notre Dame will win, but in this season, you just don't know.
Well, and I look at Michigan and Michigan State. They legitimately don't have much to play for here. The one thing that those schools have to play for is to keep playing. Because I think, as we've seen, if you're not playing at this time of year, it can really hurt you going into the tournament. If like Michigan just had their bye week, that could impact them in a series. Being off is some rust that you have to shake off. And when it's just one game and maybe you get off to a slow start or a bad start, that can really cost you. In the 3-game series, you maybe at least had some time to find your legs and recover from a bad game or two, but not in this format. And so Notre Dame, good power play, bad penalty kill, good top 6, maybe not a lot of depth, maybe 2 good D and a little shaky on the rest. So in a 1-game situation, they can just play top heavy. They can do what Moorhead did in the AA final and just play the heck out of their top guys and use their skill to overcome some depth issues. So anything can happen, I think, in this one.
I am going to pick Michigan to come out of that one. I'm not ready for an upset on that one. What is your pick for that game?
I'm going to pick Notre Dame.
Oh,
look at
that. I like it.
I mean, they just lost to the 37th team in the MPI the other day, so why not lose another one to a team down there? Could happen.
All right, then Ohio State visits Wisconsin. And with Wisconsin in a much better place now.
Yeah, they are feeling better about themselves, good about their game. I think Wisconsin pulls this one out. Ohio State, I don't feel like their top end talent is maybe as good as Notre Dame's. I think they probably have a little bit more depth than Notre Dame, but it hasn't really helped them a ton this year. It seems like they've just been a little bit off all season, and I'll go with chalk on that one.
I'm going to pick the upset here. I'm going with Ohio State. Ohio State took 7 points this year. Wisconsin took 5. Wisconsin will still be in the tournament, so they're good. So that's my upset so far here on our picks. Minnesota heading to Penn State. We have had some success against Penn State this year, but I don't know what to think. We don't know what team's going to show up, Vigs.
It is really hard to know what team's going to show up. Is it going to be the team that burned the boats, or the team that said, "Hey, you said you were going to burn the boats, and then you lost 7-1"? You know, it's hard to know. Again, I would play the heck out of the top line. I don't think Minnesota does that very often, but I would put out Zimmer, Lamb, and Mooney as much as possible.
If Lamb's going to be able to play, though, because he looks like he took a puck off the knee, inadvertent block shot on Thursday night, didn't play on Friday.
I think he will do everything possible to play in this game.
Okay.
I just get that kind of sense. And even a Lamb at less than full speed is going to be effective, I think, for Minnesota. I think Mooney draws so much attention when he's on the ice that it can create space for people. And, you just look at Zimmer, he's 3rd in the country in goals. He's on a heater of a season, and I would just rely on those guys as much as possible.
Mo did come in Friday, and I thought he fit in pretty well with that line. I was pleasantly surprised on Mason Mo.
I've noticed a lot of times when he gets chances in space, he gets his shot off really quickly, and it's usually on net. He's really good at just one-touch shots or two-touch shots, and he can play direct, which I'm always impressed with. I think sometimes you get some of these other younger players, they get the puck and they want to just get a little bit better position to shoot. He doesn't seem to care about that. He's very direct with his offense, and when you play with skilled players, you can put you in good spots. That's an effective tool. We'll see how much they can use him, but I've liked Mo this season. He's one of those players that was brought in maybe a little bit early because of early departures, but I feel like he's done well for himself this season and definitely has improved throughout the year.
Gavin McKenna, he just kind of pushed off his he just not going to have to be in court on Wednesday. He just is going to get good to go until, was it April 8th? There was his arraignment. So we knew something like that was going to. He's not going to be showing up in court on the day he's got a hockey game.
I think the circumstances of like what transpired that night, there is a consequence for the behavior, but it's not anything. I don't know, malicious.
Stop him from playing.
It's consequence, but he's going to be playing hockey.
Of course, he's going to be playing hockey.
Yeah.
Now, when's the Frozen Four this year? If they were to get to the Frozen Four,
I bet they would find a way to push it back again.
You think they would?
I think so.
Oh, because man, wouldn't that be a fun story?
Yes, for sure.
The day before Frozen Four, he's in court. Sorry, Your Honor. That'd be. Just don't get in trouble in Vegas, Gavin. You never know.
Don't get in trouble again. That's
True.
the key for him.
Because really, ever since the World Juniors, he has just played phenomenal for them.
Yeah, he's been good. Like, he's a good player in space. That's what he does. And I think sometimes you got to figure out where you can make that impact in college, and he's done it a couple nights.
what does well, obviously, I think one thing I was thinking, what does Penn State need to do? They need to stay out of the box. They do need to do that. They do lead the country with just under 20 minutes of penalties a game. I think that some of that's
Crazy.
affected. It's crazy, but I think some of those 10-minute misconducts kind of skewed that a bit. But Minnesota has also dropped to like 7th or 8th in the power play, so they kind of need to get that going as well. But Penn State does need to stay out of the box this weekend. Or this
Yeah, for
Wednesday,
sure.
sorry, the single game.
Yeah, single game. For sure. I think Penn State doesn't want to test themselves. I did think when they played here early in the year, Penn State played really cautious. Especially in the second game. They just kind of sat back a little bit more, and the game was very chess matchy, which I thought was interesting. The night before, I think Penn State was a little bit more pond hockey like. I remember talking to some of the Gopher players, and they're like, yeah, you have no idea what you're going to get out of these guys. They could be anywhere. And I think the coaching staff for Penn State saw that and said, hey, guys, tighten it up a little bit. I know we have a lot of skill here, but we don't want to get into a game like that with Minnesota and let them find their game. We would like to, limit some of the chances and control the game a little bit more. And that's what happened when Minnesota went to Penn State. They controlled that series pretty well. So it'll be interesting what kind of hockey we get Wednesday with the short turnarounds for both teams.
They don't want to give Minnesota any offense. They really don't. I mean, they gave up 12 goals to Wisconsin last weekend. Luckily for them, Minnesota has not shown consistent offense this season. Excuse me, but we just don't. They're kind of similar situation. We just don't know what we're going to get from them right now. They struggle with Notre Dame. They got swept by Penn or Ohio State or Wisconsin. Sorry, too many games in my head. And then we just don't know what we're going to get from Minnesota. Is it game 2 or game 1 game against Michigan or Michigan State, or is it 7-1? I mean, that's what's been so frustrating about this year.
Yeah, and I think that's when you rely on young players for Minnesota. That's part of the issue. Javon Moore's probably had his best little stretch here of the season, and they need him to be a good player for them if they're going to win these one-game series going forward. Javon's a big player, and I don't think he realizes quite what kind of impact he can have on the game if he plays the right style. He's got the fancy shootout moves. He's got the fancy skill. But when you're that big and strong, you can play a little bit more of a bully possession game and make those plays off of that. I think Beckett Hendrickson, has been a little snake bit with goal scoring opportunities this year. He got one last weekend against Michigan State. They need him to be effective. And when he's making his plays, it would be great for his other line mates to get in on those chaos plays around the net. And I think, we've been looking for Eric Paulson to kind of find his game.
Oh, boy. Yes.
He's got to capitalize on some of those plays by Hendrickson to pile on and keep the momentum going. And I don't think we've seen that this year. So definitely some things to focus on if you're a Minnesota fan watching.
All right. What is your pick? Wednesday, 6 p.m., BTN Plus only, but Cappy's going to be on the color call, so we're not getting student broadcasters, at least. So that part is good. What is your pick?
Gophers in double overtime.
Double overtime. 5-on-5. That's a double. That's a long game.
It's going to be a long night.
Oh.
Sorry, Cappy.
Yeah. Gophers lose 3-1 in regulation.
Ooh. I think it's gonna be like a 4-3 game. So,
well, that means Minnesota got to it 3 at least, because that's been their kind of thing this year.
Well, they're gonna need some extra time to get to 4. So, I think if you can play your top players a little bit more, that's going to be good for Minnesota. And I just feel like this is going to be a tight one. Overtime's in play. And they've gotten good goaltending this year, which is key.
So on air meeting, If Minnesota does win, when should we do another podcast?
When should we do another podcast?
We could do it Thursday. We could do it Friday. We could do it Saturday morning if we had to. What are your thoughts on that? Because if Minnesota loses, I'm thinking, we do want to come back and do at least a pre-Frozen or maybe a pre-NCAA tournament show on that Wednesday. And we want to do a pre-Frozen 4 show. So we got at least 2 more shows and then our final show. So minimum 3 shows. But if Minnesota keeps winning, we want to keep having shows here.
You know what? I think we should do a happy hour show on Friday.
Happy hour? You thinking like a little 5 o'clock, 4 o'clock somewhere?
Yeah, like a little 5 o'clock happy hour show.
With beverages?
Yeah, with beverages.
I like that idea. We'll get it booked here.
Okay.
Gotta win, Minnesota. Gotta
win.
You gotta win.
Vegas would like a Friday happy hour with GPL Nation.
Yeah, I like that idea. Because there's other well, there's really are the other leagues doing any Friday night games this week, or is it all kind of Saturday? Because they're all kind of at semifinals now, aren't they? He's gonna look. He's gonna look, folks.
I mean, I don't know. This week, what do things look like?
Maybe that just makes it better. We've got nothing going on. We're just going to be on the air drinking and talking about a potential semifinal matchup with Minnesota at most likely Michigan State. That would be great. I'll have to see. Live from I wish we could. I'm setting up over the summer to get equipment so we can do some remote broadcasting, which I think would be fun. These
the games start at 6 o'clock on Friday. There's Hockey East, there's ECAC, and there's AHA. And I think they all are starting at 6 o'clock on Friday. So we'll bring in as a lead up to that a little bit.
All right, I like that. So Minnesota got to win. If not, we'll be back right before the NCAA tournament and then the Frozen 4. Sounds like a plan, doesn't it?
Yeah, I like it.
So go Gophers, win on Wednesday. That would just make it a lot more fun for all of us. You got any other closing thoughts then, Vigs?
Who knows what's going to happen? Just enjoy it. It's hockey season.
Ooh, what's that? Been there, won that. Ooh, is that the beverage of the week?
This is the beverage of the week. Fulton released something special for Kelly Panic tonight. She was there signing autographs at their tap room, and they released this beer.
Nice.
So we'll be enjoying that in OT here.
And if you're listening on Apple or one of the other podcasts, this is why going to our YouTube channel and watching Overtime is a bonus. Things may change in the coming year. We'll wait and see there. But for now, if you want to catch us in Overtime, that's the only way you're going to catch us. Or if you're watching us live. We do have a lot of live listeners, Viggs.
Appreciate you.
We do appreciate those people. They take their time out and watch the show and watch it religiously. So we thank them. But that's going to do it for this episode of the GPL podcast. So like we talked about, we may be back later this week. We may not be. We'll just have to play it by ear right now. So for those of you watching live, stay tuned for Overtime. For the rest of you, we'll catch you next week on the GPL podcast. If you are watching on YouTube, hit that subscribe button and get notified each time we go live or post a video. If you listen on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, please rate our show and leave a review. For those of you watching live, you know what's next. It's Vigo's Beverage of the Week. It's time for Overtime. Nice.
Yeah, like I said, we got the been there, won that from Fulton. Not my usual style. It's a little bit of a shandy. And it's a crawler, which I'm terrible at pouring.
Oh, that's a good point. Overtime will never be the same if we can buy you drinks.
Probably not.
That would be interesting, wouldn't it? Look at
Cheers.
that. Very
lighter. kind of golden colored, like a gold medal.
And it was a taste.
Oh, very refreshing. This is good post-game or post-practice beer for me. Had my final skate with my Pee-wees tonight over at Parade Ice Garden. So we had a little skate with coaches playing and players playing. No injuries this year, which is always good.
Need a little Cascade CBX?
Little Cascade CBX. I've been in a hockey rink. Oh boy.
A lot.
7 nights in a row.
Oh geez. Wow.
That's 7 nights in a row I've been in a hockey rink. So it's been a doozy. So good thing I've got the Cascade CBX. Good thing I've got the been there, won that. And good thing I've got GPL Nation here.
Yeah, I like your little happy hour. Come on, Gophers. Win.
I'd like to do that. Someday we'll do it live at a spot too. But
doing it live.
Yep. We did live with Bonin.
We did. We got the setup working with the pull tab setup. It worked pretty well. I wish we had more cameras, a little more zooming in, but yeah.
Gotta go to the studio in Stillwater for that.
We may have to do that as well. I'm thinking, keeping some of this podcast going over the summer leagues. Maybe not as much with live content, but maybe recorded content with interviews with players, staff, things like that. Maybe we go over to the studio and record something with Thomas Vanek or something who lives in Stillwater. Kind of keep the thing going. What do you think of that?
I think
on-air meeting
periodic. We could do some periodic stuff. I get busy with the baseball coaching, and the softball and the golf, but we can make some time for GPL. I think it'd be good to spread our wings a little bit.
I'm also going to be adding more content to the podcast feeds. I'm going to try to put, grab the audio of, media availabilities and post game. I'm going to start adding that to the podcast feed as well. Just so, people are kind of getting it, they'll get the video if they want to go on YouTube, but it'll show up on their podcast feed. So I'm going to start doing things like that just to get us a little more exposure, Viggs. Just trying to put more stuff out there.
Mission 1000, the Mote mission. Are we growing now that I'm done coaching a few of my kids? I let them say, "Hey, I could use your subscriptions on the YouTube page."
Yeah.
Now there's no conflict of interest. I'm not going to put you on the power play unless you follow our podcast.
I am thinking about moving to a different streaming service, though.
Ooh.
Something with a little more flair to it. Something that was more localized. It would send every stream to my computer and record automatically in up to 4K. And it would be cheaper a month than StreamYard.
Interesting. You're the brains behind this.
Well, I'm just trying to think of, we tried that EV Mux for a couple episodes. It was much more complicated interface, but I liked it that it had, it could change from this scene to this scene automatically. And it was more of a production type of studio.
Mm-hmm.
So what I'm looking at is similar to that, but it's more local. And I'd love it. If it's a feed's coming in, it's recording the feed automatically. I don't have to wait for it to upload it and then download it. It's already on my machine to work with individually. So that'll be fun. And then probably this week, I'm going to move us to a actual podcast hosting company. So I can get away some of, I do it. I've hosted all of this for 15 seasons, the files, updated the feed, did all of that stuff manually. And now I'm going to do something a little bit better. So a little easier. Good. So Collins skating for Bobby next season. Is it Brooks? Wait.
I think Wyatt for sure, because he's been playing for the development program, and I think he'll be a first-round pick. I would think Brooks would be a risk. He could use another year junior. I don't think the transition will be as easy, but you know what? When you're trying to get Brooks, Wyatt, and Joey all on the same team, you might be a little more flexible.
And then another call-in, which is Mark's son, is going to Duluth.
Yeah, so that was Max Cullen. He had a pretty good state tournament.
He did.
Moorhead. He played really well, but he is not coming.
He's going to Duluth
that we know of.
Yeah, I know. Still 893. So we started the season like in the 500s, something like that. So we slowly moved up, but need more subscribers. We still put out a lot of content. Those post game stuff still gets quite a few views. There it was again from Thursday night, all by myself, Biggs.
Well,
man,
sorry. The AA games, it's a special opportunity thing, and
it's not you at all. You try to get a one game a weekend if you can.
I gotta be careful. I spent a little bit too much time this last week doing.
Well, yeah, and that's just it. So, but that's coming. That could come to an end. It's coming to an end. The youth hockey's stopping. High school hockey's done. College hockey could be done real quick here. And then we see what happens, because if the season ends, Biggs, this Wednesday, there are going to be people calling for Bob's head. It's going to be a fact. They're going to be doing it.
Yeah, I think we've heard it at the games, and so I don't know. I haven't heard any steam other than administration has been at some practices and things like that, but I don't know. I just don't.
And the funny, I heard from a podcaster was just before us, or actually it was on Friday afternoon in the pull tab booth there, that you're getting one thing from former players and you're getting another thing from the boosters, and that could be conflicting. Like because we hear it from the players, some of these players, quite a few players all over the place. They're kind of all over the place too. So, and then if there's boosters, and I'm thinking boosters, you're thinking Nanny, yes, a former player, but it's more of a booster type. And some of their friends and whatnot, I'm guessing they feel something totally different.
I do think it's always hard when you look at social media, because it really amplifies opinions, and the crowds have been pretty good for most of the year at Mariucci, despite the tough season. Ticket sales have been good.
But it could hurt renewals. It's going to hurt renewals.
It could. But generally, the athletic department has not been proactive on making coaching moves. It's usually taken a little while, where you've seen the dip. Ben Johnson got a long run as basketball coach. Don even got, a couple extra goes at it to try to fix things before they decided to make the move.
Yeah, but this is a historically bad Minnesota team, winning percentage wise. And then you have the whole Coyle thing. I don't know if he gets hired by Kentucky, but people say he's a name there. Then it's all bets are off. If you lose the athletic director, you're not getting any sort of change unless someone just changes it on their own.
Yeah. And, hockey's still pretty healthy. Last fiscal year, they brought in over $9 million in revenue. You're not seeing any scandals in the program. There aren't things like that to point to as a reason to make a change. They have a really good recruiting class committed in 2 years. They have some good commits for next year. There's
But that's where,
Always
you
look
look
at
at
it.
somebody like any coach, even Bob is frustrated with, gosh, we bring in all this revenue and we can't touch it. Or it's rare that they can touch it or
Yep.
do anything with it. And that's the sad part. He feels like, gosh, I just want some new this or new that and to upgrade this. And it's only part of these big initiatives. Can they, take a couple of years? But remember, there's supposed to be a phase 2 of the of the arena. But you've got the money making thing, and then all of a sudden you got this NIL thing just came in the meantime, and it might be 3, 4, 5 years before they even think about making more changes at Mariucci.
Well, I mean, the revenue share of having to come with an extra $20.5 million to pay athletes, and most of it's going to football and basketball players and women's basketball players, and hockey's not the priority there right now. So that's just the reality. I think Minnesota was looking at doing a new basketball venue before the revenue share came in. That was a big talk. Like if you listen to Mark Coyle when he spoke on football radio pregame, that was something that he would freely bring up. It's something they're looking at doing. And now, that looks like a long ways down the road for an investment by the University of Minnesota.
Because that does need to be done. Everyone, we love the old building, but it's going to be 100 years old in a couple of years, and it's not a creature comfort at all. And that's what people want.
Yeah, I think for the players, it's been fine, but for the fans, it's probably the worst venue in the Twin Cities.
Mm-hmm.
Nico's having a good little run with the basketball team this year.
Yeah.
One of us.
Yeah. Who knows? We talked a little bit about Yost last weekend. Does that get replaced? It's got to get replaced eventually too, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think there was talk about maybe building like a multi-sheet rink on campus, and then you could have women's hockey there too. I think that also went on the shelf when the rev share stuff came up. It's really putting the squeeze on stuff. Unless you're like a Maryvale and you don't have these big costs already, it's hard to add anything to your school. And it's interesting, like some of these private little schools, adding hockey is a nice little way to provide some amenities and get some more students. And
how's revenue shared go with St. Thomas?
Well, they have just lots of donations right
Yeah.
now. They've got more money coming in than a lot of other schools because the people who give to St. Thomas are very loyal and they want to give it to a good institution and they feel very comfortable with that. That's why you see so much construction on their campus. I feel like every 4 or 5 years they launch a new project. And so they've got lots of shiny buildings on campus. But if you looked at their attendance in the new arena at all?
I have not. I've only seen them. I actually did see quite a few empty seats last time I saw some.
There's a lot of empty seats at the Penny.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I think that's something they're going to have to figure out. And maybe that'll change when they join the NCHC.
How's the parking down there? Do we know? I mean, is there parking?
I haven't been to a game there yet and seen what it's like, but it's not probably the easiest venue to get to. Not like Mariucci is easy to get to either, but
true.
At least you have a campus that can handle 50,000 students and 10,000 employees every day.
Yeah. And then obviously we got Ohio State too. Maybe they're going to get their rank. Hopefully they get their rank. So they need to negotiate bigger TV contracts. Let me see. Let's bring this one up here. There should be plenty of money to go around in the Big Ten. I keep wondering though, Viggs, how long are these big TV contracts going to keep going? Because they're getting paid so much right now. Are these networks breaking it? I mean, you look at like ESPN, they've actually cut back on some of their things recent years. Like they're kind of trying to get rid of baseball, and they're like, gosh, we're kind of overextended. And I think that's just going to get worse as prices go up. You're going to see less. I think the money's got to top out eventually.
All right, you're going to force me to Google something online. But Stuart Mandel is a writer for The Athletic.
Yeah.
And he often writes about ratings for college football. And he basically says that the biggest rating events of the year are pretty much college football. And let's see. Like this year, week 1 college football, they had the biggest week 1 ratings ever. Over 10 million people tuned in for the top 3 games in college football. And it's just like live sports bring eyes. And so with all these streaming options, you know, your usual like Thursday night shows just don't do it anymore. But if you're watching Michigan, Ohio State, you're going to get 15, 20 million people watching that.
Yeah,
no problem.
but what were those numbers before we had all this cable?
These are the top numbers ever for week 1.
Really?
Yeah. Like it's only going up.
I just think there's got to be a max here. I mean, you look what the NFL does, and it's just the contracts are, you know, billions of dollars now. And
Texas, Ohio State, 17 million viewers, most watched game 1 football game on record ever.
Yeah, okay, you think of that, and then you hear, oh, the Super Bowl had 140 million viewers. But then something like club soccer has 700 million viewers worldwide. Obviously, the dollar figures on, you know, in different parts of the country is less. But I look at some of those viewing numbers, and the club soccer and probably World Cup number. I mean, World Cup, they're getting close to 1 billion viewers for the World Cup final, and it just.
But you also look at demographics for the games, and like the 30 million people that watch the national championship, the demographic for that is different than the 700 million watching the World Cup. So if you're trying to advertise and target to people, I think your college football people, you know, they want their Dr. Pepper ad, they want their State Farm ad, you know, they want their cars and they want their Modelo ads, you know, whatever it is. And that's going to hit.
I don't know. I just think that something's going to come to a head. It's getting so expensive, and you know, unplugging has not become not the cheap thing it used to be. Unplugging from cable.
Yeah, I've got my Fubu.
Yeah, you got all those
HBO.
Yeah,
I've got my Peacock. I've got my Paramount. Netflix,
Apple TV,
Apple TV,
Amazon Prime. It's
a lot. And then I gotta have my fiber internet. I got my BTN Plus.
That's why I got that one too. It adds up, and people are getting angrier and angrier, Viggs.
Well,
I mean, they're just like, gosh, I'm sick of paying for this, blah blah blah. I mean, you just look at something simple as Gopher game, hockey games on Big Ten Network TV. Why isn't that on BTN Plus? That just seems like a no freaking brainer to me. And you know, we know Cappy works a lot of stuff. He's like, I don't understand it either. I'm like, no, you have to go over to the Fox Sports app, and in order to get that work, you need to have the right TV service that supports it to watch it. Whereas I would think people are already paying for BTN Plus. They should get that type of stuff included, but
I would think so.
And I understand why that makes people mad. Like, okay, I have BTN Plus. Why am I not seeing the games on BTN?
It's a valid question.
I know. It's just things like that. It's just little things like that. And, you know, and then, you know, it was just like blackout rules for games and just weird things. I mean, I've seen it in the past where a game's been on, like a Wild game on TNT, but it's also on, you know, Bally Sports or whatever. And it'll be blocked out on TNT because it's local on Bally Sports and I can't watch it because I don't have Bally Sports on my YouTube. I mean, it's just so many things. And people are getting more and more fed up. That's why I think eventually this is going to come to some kind of crash.
I just don't think it is, though.
Really?
I don't think it is. I think we're just going to get more and more segmented.
Oh.
So, sorry. I don't think it's going to happen. You know, I feel like there was a push to have like a sports only streaming service, and people are like, no, I want you to keep paying for as many as you can. So, sorry, folks. It's nice that some of the games are on Fox 9 on the bunny ears. You know, the Wild games. They've got some games here coming up on 45.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
that was nice to watch because it's a Bally Sports
nice.
Production, and who knows what happens with Bally Sports? Obviously, they're just sounds like they're folding up.
I don't think we're going to be changing TV and streaming anytime soon. I think it's just going to be more of a thing going forward. Like even the NFL, like you've got to get Amazon Prime for games and stuff and Netflix for games. You know, that used to be a pretty sacred one. Even if it was on something else, you could still get it locally.
And you still, well, if it's the Vikings playing, it'll be on one of the local stations. But I often wonder, how long is that going to last? How long is ABC going to pick up the Vikings Amazon Prime game? I mean, that's always been a rule, even when it was on ESPN or even back in the day, TNT. If it was on a cable network, it was still on one of the local over-the-air stations. I kind of wonder, how long is that going to last? Sports are trying. Groot Vader.
100%. It's like people will sign up for a streaming service to watch their favorite sports team so that they don't miss out when they're watching their favorite podcast or at the water cooler or going to their message board or going to X or Twitter or Blue Sky or whatever it is.
And this is why I think, especially with BTN, if you pay for the plus, whatever's on the main network, just give it to us and shut up, please.
They want you to subscribe to something else, Jupe.
I hope they do.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's usually fine for me, but because I have YouTube TV and I can watch BTN on YouTube TV wherever I'm at.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's fine for me, but I understand. Well, I have BTN Plus. How come I'm not seeing this game? Yeah, we know. I mean, I had to create a damn page on GPL for it, saying, hey, if it's on BTN Plus only, it's not going to, or if it's on BigTen Network, it's not going to be on BTN Plus. And frustration.
Yep. It was interesting moving back to our favorite hockey team. I thought it was funny that a lot of the people who are hanging around with us for our little post game, I got a lot of questions from people who are very around the program. They're like, what is going to happen with this roster next year? Are we going to see major turnover for the first time in the portal era with Minnesota hockey?
There was a tweet too thinking, hey, who do we know is guys going to leave? It's like, and like you've been saying recently, a lot of these players aren't talking to coaches.
Right.
Are these players doing the same and we just have no idea? Are they going to get blindsided again?
It's a fine line to walk, I think, as a coach, to be like, hey, just so you know, we're going to be parting ways at the end of the year. We'll put in a good word for you to go somewhere else and get a spot. But just be aware, if someone offers you a spot, you should probably take it. I think some of those conversations are probably going on or should be happening, at least with the agents and advisors ahead of time. Because I do feel like there's got to be some immediate turnover that's going to happen because, the old saying in college hockey, the day George Gwozdecky got fired at Denver was the day that, just being a good Boy Scout and a successful hockey coach that makes smart decisions isn't enough. Like, you can't have seasons like this one at Minnesota. So you better be active in doing all that you can to keep that from repeating another year. And, Minnesota's a pretty great place to play. I heard Pat Micheletti talking about this with Mike Grimm this week.
Yep,
he's like,
listening to that.
Lots of guys want to play at Minnesota. And, if you're not doing right by the program with your performance on the ice, as much as they're loyal to you, they got to find guys that can play.
Tim Hapke. Truth.
If I had an NIL budget, that's where it would go. As much as you want it to attract players, I think it's been shown that having older players who stay has a bigger impact on your program. And you tell the guys coming in, hey, look at what they're getting. If you can do what they do, when you get to that point in your career, that's going to be there for you. But we're not paying you to come here. You've got to come here and earn that opportunity, that money. And
you were mentioning earlier this season that you might eventually get numbers from some of these NIL things. Are we ever going to know like what McKenna is? He really getting the $700,000 type of thing?
We should see next January how much rev share money was paid out by Penn State.
Yeah.
So players have been getting paid since July 1 this year, rev share money. Like those checks started coming in July. They don't have to disclose those payments, and they don't have to disclose the total budget that they spent on those until next January. So we saw in the financial reporting, there's a line for it, but there's $0 for this year for Minnesota.
Interesting. It's going to be a crazy couple of weeks.
And just we're getting Groot a lot today in our comment section, but I think Bob has held off and, has had opportunities to do this in the past, to be aggressive in the portal. And he's been pretty loyal to guys. And I feel like he's talked about this with Wally on his coach's show this year a couple times too. He's like, he's a loyal guy, and he's done that in the past. And I think, hindsight 2020, he's second guessing himself. They've been close, and they've passed up opportunities to do things where they've had to maybe part ways with a current player or an incoming recruit to replace them with someone else. And they've held off doing that out of, gentleman agreement type behavior.
Yeah.
And I just think after this year, we're not going to see that as much in college hockey, even for a guy like Bob. So April's going to be busy.
April 14th, I believe it is.
Mm-hmm.
That Monday after Frozen Four, which I do like because it just left so many people in weird positions. And what had happened? It started happening during the regionals, I think, last year, and it was just.
And I think you're kidding yourself if you think that the conversations aren't happening somehow.
True. We did hear about that letter that went out from the NCAA say, hey, stop this bullshit type, basically saying enough of this because we know what's happening.
And then the teacher turned back around to start writing on the backboards, and all the coaches started passing notes and joking behind his back.
Oh my gosh, you just brought me back to junior high right there.
I mean, the NCAA just has shown that they don't have any.
They have no spine. They can't win a lawsuit.
Unless a coach is careless with how they do things, like Arizona State was with football during the COVID recruiting stuff, where they just had, and when you have staffers who are unhappy and want to whistleblow, unless that's happening, you're not going to get.
We've been seeing, people like Saban and a couple other former coaches. It's going to be college football where the change is going to happen. Because I think it's going to get even more out of control, especially in football. I mean, you're playing these guys millions of dollars, straight up pay for play. Oh yeah, they tweeted something out for. I mean, it's straight up paying for playing, and it has nothing to do with name, image, and likeness. It seems like.
Like Abby Murphy getting paid by Drip Drop, she should get that money. She's had a very successful college career.
Yes.
She's won a gold medal in the
she's
Olympics.
Out there doing that.
She's on TNT doing intermission reports. Talking.
Got my Drip Drop here.
Like she was asking questions to Quinn Hughes on the panel that were next to Ace and all
that
was
so
guys
cool.
Up there.
That was so cool.
She deserves a little money for that. She's been very successful. People know who she is. Now, incoming freshman who
just got $1 million to be a quarterback at like Tennessee or something like that. It's just or just throwing money at players to switch schools, and I think that's where we're going to see change. Vigs. We're not going to see it as much here, but it's ruining it. Well, it's not ruining. It's affecting college hockey a lot. But it's going to take changes from basically basketball and football, and big people saying enough is enough, and maybe they even go to the the government and say, hey, make laws. I mean, that's really the only way they could do it, couldn't they? They'd have to go make laws that put restrictions on it. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't see where it ends with the pay to come play rather than the pay because, wow, people know you. You do stuff.
Yeah, Steve's like, yeah, endorsement. Yeah, I think that's completely exactly what it was meant for. Actually doing endorsements and saying, hey.
Or Taylor Heisey's running her hockey camp at Ritter, and she's hiring current Gophers or other college players to like run stations. That's great. That's what that rule is meant to be.
No, totally get it. But I think people like Saban are right. $multi-million for these players, and they have to do one tweet or something. Yeah, this is where I like this auto dealership or whatever it may be. It just seems like a lot of funny stuff going on here.
Well, there's like the famous saying in sports that it's really hard to evaluate a prospect until you introduce girls and beer. And now you add money to that mix. It's going to be even harder to figure out who's going to make it.
Yeah. I almost think maybe they could make a rule where, freshmen don't get paid, or they can't be part of it, or no like signing bonus, or I don't know, just wishful thinking.
It is wishful thinking, but I think that's when you see the brown bags come back into play again, or the money in the hat.
Yeah, that could be that way for football. Maybe it could fix hockey a bit more.
In hockey, you're lucky to get some of those guys to play a second year, so they might never see anybody.
Which is what it's interesting. I would love to know what the actual McKenna money is. Is that over? Like we had earlier saying, is that being paid out over 4 years? Is it a big one lump sum? Is that the actual number, or is that just agents and parents? What did Martone get? Just all these type of things. It's got to be some kind of tracking. Like you said, they're supposed to report this maybe like January next year, but.
By the way, seeing Martone in person, that is a hockey player. He's something. Like he is built big, and he scores NHL style goals.
And I came up to you because I didn't really understand what had happened, because I was in the box third period Friday night, and he came skating back. I need salt. And I'm like, I came to you post game. I'm like, so what was that about? What does he need? He's like, when you're like, oh, he's probably getting dehydrated because he doesn't have a lot of fat on him. So staying hydrated is a much more difficult process for him. So, okay, once you explained it, but because I hear the little weird things like that. Like, he comes running, skating to the bench. I need salt.
Yeah, he's a super muscular, super lean guy. And especially in hockey, sometimes that's not always the easiest body type to perform back-to-back games. I know Cal Dietz has tried to convince some of those types of athletes to be like, hey, we need a little bit of cushion here because you're not going to be able to perform consistently. I know you look great on the beach. I know, you like to show off the cut body, but like a hockey player's got to have a little bit more balance to be able to perform. This is not posing on stage. This is performing. And, you need to have a little bit of leeway and a little bit more energy in your body to sustain a hockey game and definitely a weekend or a series. So kind of some interesting strength and conditioning stuff there.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Michigan State team, they're a big, strong team.
Yeah, well, will our favorite Minnesotan from Michigan State be on the Wild before the playoffs?
Well, he made it through the trade deadline. That's a good sign for him. He's probably a big body who will get a chance to sign and burn a year to make sure that they get him. We'll see. I don't think he'll be a big player for them, but I bet he gets a game.
Yeah.
I think one of the things Bill Guerin's done is added some depth here the last couple of weeks. And, that limits the opportunity for someone like that to step in and play. But, Michigan State doesn't make it to the Frozen Four, he would get an opportunity. And Michigan State hasn't made the Frozen Four in 20 years.
Oh, boy. Yeah. It's been a little dicey for them. They have not performed well in these last basically 2 years. They've won the league now 3 years in a row, but basically the last 2 seasons kind of early exits.
Yeah, I wonder if their fan base will start to say, yeah, these regular season titles are so nice, but what have you done for me in the playoffs? Like Minnesota fans have been doing for 25 years now, 24 years.
Yeah, they just had the 50th of the 76 team this past weekend. It's fun because whenever Joe Micheletti shows up for these things, that means Joe's daughter and son-in-law shows up, and I got my picture with one of them. It was Mike Madonna. It was a couple of years ago. They were celebrating one of those teams, and Mike Madonna was in there. And I was talking a little bit with him and Paul Martin, and I was just not brave enough to get a photo. This time I'm like, damn it, I'm getting my selfie with Mike Madonna because he's right up our alley, Viggs, especially me. I am of the age of Mike Madonna.
And Met Center, being right by
At
Bloomington.
Met Center, yes.
Yeah. Did you get to my North Star games at the old Met growing up?
Not in the Madonna years, some of the mid 80 years. Dino, Bobby Smith, Broughton and whatnot. Steve Payne, Kurt Giles. So that was the era.
Yeah.
I got there more for high school games because that was where like Section 5 finals and Section 6 finals were for forever. So
yeah, I feel like I grew up kind of getting like one North Star game a year kind of thing, just kind of getting a feel for it. And it usually be against the Blackhawks. So there'd be fights. I remember a Blackhawk player was in the penalty box and somebody poured a beer on him. It was just like,
because there was like something like for a long time there was no glass. Really, it was just like you could open.
Yeah, you could just go over.
It was just open.
So
glass in front, but open to the penalty box. Oh, jeez. Brilliant.
That was always an interesting place to go as a young kiddo.
And the multicolored seats that were terribly replaced with like maroon burgundy seats in the late 80s, early 90s, just kind of wrecked the whole vibe.
Yeah, I feel like I saw a hat at the expo that had like the different seats, on a logo on a hat.
Oh, nice.
So that was kind of cool. So
nice.
And then you saw Tyler Sheehy and Joey Miller as well.
I did. I went up and I thanked Tyler Sheehy for being in on the joke for a couple seasons after that terrible Notre Dame call that put him in the box and basically ended their season. Or or he ended his college career in the penalty box. I would, when something bad happened, I would just kind of tweet out, it's Sheehy's fault. He was in the penalty box, blah, blah, blah. And he would retweet it and he would like it. And I just kind of went up to him and said hello and said, thank you for being in on it and getting it and basically not being a dick about it. He had a good sense of humor about it because it's like completely out of his control. We all know it was a bad call. And he was such a good sport about it. So got to meet him and Joey Miller, and they're all going to work for Brian Bonnet, it sounds like.
Sounds like we might have a hostile takeover of Sports Engine happening as well by Crossbar. So interesting.
He's like, well, we'll just buy him.
Business must be good for the Bonnet household.
Yeah, well, that's good.
That's good for him, though.
Yeah, so I met those guys. We might try to get them on the podcast sometime. I think it's just be fun getting some more guys on here, and
I think Bonnet said he might come back on with us. So
yeah,
that'd be
good. Green Biscuit had a booth at the expo, and that's former Gopher defenseman Tom Peterson's thing. I was he was a pretty good Gopher, and he big, strong. Well, not big. He was a strong guy. He's still built that way. But then I always kind of heard he was kind of a jerk. It was kind of proven to me that he was kind of a jerk.
Oh man,
he's like, well, if we do anything, I have to be up. I'm up at like 5 a.m. I'm working out, and so I'm like going, okay. And like, met the lunch bucket guys.
Yeah.
It was fun to meet the lunch bucket guys. They're not on, the pull tab right now, but they're going to try to get back on soon. But it was fun to meet them because, we'd advertise for them. I love their stuff. And so it was fun to go meet them and got to meet a couple other of the pull tab people. Elena and Kinger's son was there running things. And so, yeah, it was fun to be part of the expo and get in there and just check it out.
For sure.
We'll have to do it again next year, maybe. Maybe we won't do the last hour of the show, though, of the whole show, because it's like as we're finishing up with Brian, they're taking things down. You hear all these banging and stuff because people are taking down their booths all around next to us. And I think his son came and took down a sign. I saw some people going in and out of the curtain next to us.
Yeah. Well, I was a little occupied with my hockey tournament this last weekend.
So much going on.
Yeah. Our kids came through, won the consolation
sweet
side of the bracket. So that was a good way to finish the season. So enjoyable with the kiddos. Always fun coaching the youth sports, big development years for those kids. And
so how long is your break until baseball?
I think I have maybe 3 weeks.
Oh, jeez.
Because my kids start spring break here this week, after this week, and so they're on spring break through like the 27th. So first week of April we'll start up.
How long are you going to coach, though?
My kids?
Yeah.
Well, my daughter's it was her second year at U10.
Okay.
So at least 2 more years probably for her. My son's going to be a Bantam next year. We'll see if that association wants me coaching. I don't know yet. Who knows? Might be good for my son to get a different perspective, but I'm willing to help. So we'll see.
Yeah, no, I was just curious because I'm obviously it's like, oh, are you going to become a high school coach somewhere?
Who knows?
Just kidding. I don't know how. I was never a coach. I could have done soccer, but then my kids didn't want to play soccer. So I'm like, okay, I'm not going to coach you in that.
Yeah, I helped out Craig Norwich for a couple of years with high school hockey, and Joe Dezek for a couple of years with high school hockey, and coached high school football for almost a decade. So
yeah,
got some of that experience, and I definitely enjoy it. It's fun. So we'll see. I'm not getting any younger though, Jupe. So I need a little more Cascade CBX these days for the aches and pains.
I think I need more whiskey for the aches and pains. I don't know. Maybe I'll have to break, if the Gophers win, I might have to break out that what you gave me.
Well, definitely for happy hour on Friday. I mean, that's a great way to start a weekend. Little Buffalo Trace product.
You are correct, sir. Yes.
Yes, sir.
All right. People are starting to check out on us here.
Well, it's early in the week. This was the beer of the week.
Hold on a second. Let's
it's a little unusual for me to have a lighter beer, but been there, done now that. Again. So
yeah.
Little golden shandy from Fulton.
Well, who's checking? Well, I'm kind of checking out. I could not sleep last night. It's one of those you go to bed and you lay in bed for an hour and a half, and I got up at 1:40. Then I was up till 3, and then went to sleep. And thinking about all this podcasting stuff, and maybe, like I said, getting a podcast host and maybe doing some monetization of that. And even though the season's winding down, I was thinking about doing that stuff. And then, like I said, equipment for remote hosting and stuff like that. And thinking about the summer shows, and hey, let's try to get Bob on, or maybe a Joe Dietzich. He would be a perfect guy to have on too. I bet you he still bleeds maroon and gold.
Bob has hinted that he's willing to go on with us sometimes. I don't think he's a late night Wednesday in season type option, but he could be a good summer option.
Like I said, I was thinking, maybe the summer is more of the recorded and more polished. And this is pretty polished. I think we do a pretty good job doing live, but that could give us a lot more flexibility in going in and using multiple cameras, getting nice and smooth.
Bob always likes to pause things and go, and off the record. I think sometimes he forgets that when he
that would be fun though. But I think it's funny. Record, and then just put a box over his face, and you can't hear it. And some music is playing. That would be pretty funny, actually.
I think it's pretty funny because sometimes I think when he's on with Wally for his coach's show, he forgets that it's a radio show that's going to be broadcast.
By saying things like we were caught off guard.
Caught with our pants down.
Yeah.
Yeah, hitting the stones. It's like, Bob, you're doing a radio show. And then I'll talk to him about availability. He's like, well, I don't know where you heard that. I was like, I listened to your coach's show with Wally. He's like, go to Wally? Did I say that? And Wally'd be like, you did. It's out there.
Oh. Yeah, I was thinking more recorded because then we could just do it a little easier. But we could still, there's times where we can still use this platform. Hey, we need to record 6:00 p.m. or something like that. We can do that. And then just record it and post it. And edits and things like that. We'll see. Just kind of keep some things going, kind of keep some momentum going. Build up for next year.
Mm-hmm.
I would love to reach out to, like I said, David Carl. I think it'd be fun to get him on. Especially if some team gets really screwed in the regional this year. Boy, that would be great, for June or something like that. We'll be talking about that because it'd be after their meetings and whatnot.
Yeah, I'd love a post Florida meeting, David Carl. I'd love a from Florida conversation with David Carl, as I do. Tell me I'm wrong. Here's a beer, and I could just see Scott Sandelin just shotgunning the beer and be like, well, I guess our time's up.
Sandelin would be a good guest too.
Yep.
Hastings would be a good guest.
Tell your friends, people, subscribe to the pod, get us over that 1,000, and maybe we'll get the cred to do these things. So.
Yeah, that would be good. That'd be really good.
All right, Jupe.
Yeah,
it's a big week. We might have 2 shows this week. We might have 3 shows in 8 days. It's
We
playoffs
could,
time.
because
It's
I'm
playoff time.
thinking if they do win, so we got Friday, we got happy hour Friday. We would have next show next Wednesday, and then we'd have to see, but he would give us an extra. We've got a minimum 3 shows left, minimum. So we'll do. We got today, actually, and if they lose, we would have NCAA. Yeah, minimum 3 shows: NCAA, Frozen Four, and postmortem, like we've been doing the last 5 years or so. So
Yeah,
that
we
would
probably
work.
want to do our postmortem maybe after the portal, or maybe portal time or something.
I don't know.
So
So maybe because I'm thinking a lot. Well, it's only a 2-week thing. 14. I think it's 2 weeks. I have to check GPL. It's like the 14th to that month, the final Monday. So it's not a long period.
yeah,
Hey, maybe we could have multiple ones. We might have to have emergency shows.
emergency
Gosh,
shows could
gosh,
happen.
if Bob just says I quit, or some guy we got McKenna coming to Minnesota via the port. I mean, we leave ourselves open for special shows. Mass exodus. Yeah, that would definitely be a reason to have a show. So we shall see. All right, we good here, Vegas?
I think we're good.
All right.
Cross those fingers for Wednesday.
Yeah. Cross your fingers for happy hour on Friday, late
Yep,
afternoon.
Friday happy hour would be great.
All right. Good night, folks.
Man, why Cullen up to 23 in the draft prospect rankings? Wonder if there's another draft prospect guy who's going to come